excited to be kicking off part 2 of this course. So just as a reminder, we are your facilitators. And so I just kind of want to set the stage for this course and how it's going to look different than the course we just participated in. So the last course was really kind of a primer to get you up and running with what you needed to in terms of thinking more of synchronous or kind of webinar-based sessions. This course is going to focus and go a little bit deeper into how to really engage your learners through more asynchronous style activities, discussions, and things like that. So thinking in terms of like over several days or a week or a longer term course. And so that'll be our focus. And so for today's webinar, we're going to talk about online courses, what's the difference between online learning and face-to-face learning, and then we're going to look at some tools and strategies that you can use to help support you as you're getting your online learning up and running. Okay, so to start, we are going to use a tool called Padlet, and I am not sure if any of you know Padlet, but it's one of my favorite tools, and so I'll talk about it several times in this webinar. But before we get started, what I'm going to do is just kind of give you a brief overview of how to use Padlet. It's pretty simple, but you can think of Padlet as like a virtual bulletin board. And so I'm going to switch over here. So this is the Padlet that I have created for us to use today. And the way that it works is once I give you the link, you'll be able to go to the Padlet. And then from there, you're going to create a post with some of your ideas once I give you the discussion prompt. Imagine if you've ever done the activity in your classrooms where you take a Post-it note and everybody sticks their idea on the whiteboard. Same idea, just online. And so in order to do that, when you come to the Padlet, there's a little plus button, and you simply just click that to create a new post. And once you do that, you'll put your name in the title, and then you'll write your response in the note. So those are just really the Padlet basics to get you ready for our question, for our first discussion question to kick things off. So once I give you the link, I want you to think about it first, and then I'll give you the link to respond. But I want you to think, how does technology change the way we teach? And how does it change the way we learn? Okay, so just think for a moment about that. And then what I'll do is post the link to the Padlet so you can post your response in the Padlet. Okay, so I just posted the link to the Padlet in the chat, and so what you can do is take that link, open it in a new window, and post your response to the question, how does technology change the way we teach, and how does it change the way that we learn? Oh, I meant to set my timer. So I'll give you everyone about 3 minutes total for this. So let's take about 2 more minutes to kind of gather our thoughts and put them into the Padlet. So just so everybody can see, I'll switch over to the actual Padlet here. And so you can see as people are posting, some of the posts are starting to come in. These are very thoughtful responses. I like these very much. So as you are finishing, and if you have already posted, you can read the responses of your fellow participants, and you'll notice that the Padlet has options to like posts, or you can also comment on posts as well.
Okay, I can't figure out how to post it. I click on the little arrow button, but it just says pick a file from your computer by dragging here or clicking the button below.
You clicked on the plus button?
I clicked on the plus button and I typed what I needed to type, but now I just have a box, and at the top it's a garbage can, and at the bottom it's an arrow that says upload. And when I click upload, it tells me to upload something from my computer.
Nope, you don't need to upload anything. You can just type your response in. So,
well, I've done that.
And then you just go ahead and click outside of your note, and then it's posted. Well, so once you type your response,
I don't see my note out there. So
well, they're kind of all jumbled, but I'll all
right,
reorganize them. So the thing about Padlet is there are different formats as well, which I'll get into this in a little bit later in the course, but or in the webinar today. But this is like a free form option. So as you can see, I'm able to kind of move posts around here to organize them. But we can see that a lot of them have started to come in here, and so I'm just going to kind of reorganize them so that they are readable. Okay, these are all really great answers. Very different too. Okay, so what we're going to do, it seems like most people have gotten their responses in. The next step in this icebreaker activity is we're going to do a little analysis. So look at your peers' responses, and I just want you to notice what are some similarities among all of the responses? What are some of the differences? And does anything surprise you about something someone said? And so just take a minute, take all of that in, think about the similarities, differences, surprises, and then you can comment in the chat box anything that really struck you, what you noticed based on your peers' responses. Yeah, so what are some of the similarities that you're noticing? I see Shane commented lots of similarities. What are some of those similarities? Connection, forced to change, connection, depth, challenges. multimodality, trying new things, growth, definitely. There is a lot of growth that is needed when you're moving to an online environment. Extra effort. Greater flexibility. Lots and lots of resources. Sometimes resources are overwhelming. There are so many. Expanding boundaries. Okay, these are all really great connections here. And so these are some really common themes, these things that you guys are noticing when we think about online learning. And so also when I say online learning, I'm using that to encompass many different forms of online learning. It's a broad definition. But so online learning can look like a webinar like we're doing now, or it can be more of a full-fledged course. And for the purposes of this webinar, everything we talk about applies to any of those different forms of online learning. And I think that they all inherently kind of have some similar benefits and challenges, which we've all taken a moment to notice here. So we are going to come back to some of these similarities and differences that you noticed. But I do want to just call attention to the activity that we just did. And so this is called a chalkboard splash. And this is something that works in a face-to-face environment, as well as a webinar like this, or in an online course, you could also use it. And sort of the procedure that we followed there. So you create a prompt, you ask students to think about it, you ask your learners to write and respond and post it to a board. So whether that's a physical post-it note or like we did with a virtual post-it note. And then thinking a little bit deeper and analyzing the responses, what are some similarities, differences, surprises. So this is a good activity for you to put in your toolbox. Okay, so in this webinar, it's kind of, we're going to break it into two parts. I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about setting the stage for effective online learning. What are some things that you need to have in place before you even start with your classes? And then we will transition into looking at some of the tools and strategies that you can use for your online learning and for your courses. So there are a lot of considerations that need to be taken into account when planning for online learning. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are four principal areas where you kind of need to make sure that you have these things in place to set the stage so that your students are going to be set up for success. And so these things are centered around communication, and how communication is going to look different online versus how it might look in a workshop or in-person training. Being intentional about the tools. So what tools are you using, and not just choosing them for fun, but choosing them because they make sense for what you're trying to accomplish. Providing learner support and your resources. So the first piece we'll kind of talk about is communication. And so a general guideline is that you want to communicate early and communicate often so that learners know what to expect. So this includes pre-course, during course, and post-course communication. So in pre-course communication, you want to include information about how to access the course, important dates, and most importantly, expectations for communicating. So how do you want students to communicate with you? How often are you expecting them to communicate? And what are the, what are the methods for them communicating with each other and with you? During course communication, so this is, reminders, updates, and then also providing learners timely feedback and responding to their questions. So timely feedback on assignments or discussion board posts, as well as responding to any questions that come to you directly. And so this concept of providing timely feedback and responding to discussion board posts and facilitating discussions is something that we're going to explore deeply in this course, actually, in the core module. And then post-course, You want to make sure that you're following up with learners with any additional information that you've promised, what's next if you have a follow-up course, and then providing learners information, how can they stay engaged with one another, with the course material, what are some resources for further learning to help them continue their learning after the course. Okay, so the next sort of core area of consideration or kind of thing that you need to have in place for your online learning is providing learner support. And that's really central. And so like we mentioned, I saw mentioned on the Padlet, like students' technology skills do come into play and teachers' technology skills come into play. And so how can we be proactive about providing support to learners before they have to ask for it? And this is an area that I have a lot of experience in because I've spent time managing help desks and helping support teachers and learners using technology online. And my best piece of advice is to kind of predict where your learners are going to need help. And so being proactive about breaking down information around maybe where that muddy area might be. And one strategy you can use is to just ask a colleague to help review your content or your plan and ask them where they might have been confused, especially if you're looking, at the content every day, all day, it's not going to be clear to you maybe where the muddy points might be. And so asking for feedback from a colleague. Don't assume that they know or don't know. This is also very, very important. So I recommend pre-assessing your learners whenever it's possible. And so before a learner comes into your course, you should try to gather information about which technologies, what skills do they have, what do they have experience using, as well as information about what is their level of familiarity with the content in your course as well. But don't assume that just because you know it and it's a simple tool that everybody knows it. So if you're not able to pre-assess, you kind of want to break things down for your learners when it comes to how to access different areas of the course. So one tool that I have that's actually one of my favorites, this is just a little tech tip, is called Awesome Screenshot. And this is a tool that I use often to create like help materials that allow me to take video screencasts or screenshots to provide sort of guidance. So if you go into our Moodle course, I used Awesome Screenshot to provide the visuals for how to navigate the Moodle course. That's the tool that I use to create that. I've got my chat over here that I was ignoring, so let me pull that to the front.
I'm trying to monitor it, Becky.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Okay, so now centralizing your resources. So much of online learning is actually knowledge management, and that is something that I cannot emphasize enough. When you think about the difference between face-to-face versus online, when you're face-to-face, you hand someone a photocopied worksheet. You have your resources there in front of you usually. But when we think about online, everything exists in a link or a download, and the resources aren't as tangible. So it's very, very easy to let this course content get lost in what I call link land. But you need to give your resources a home. They want a home. And so it doesn't matter where it is or what you decide, but whatever works best for your course and your learners. But you should create a page or a shared folder to house and organize everything, and then organize things by category if possible. And so, for example, in our course, I've created our resources page, which is where you can go to find any of the resources that we kind of talk about or include in the course materials. And then sharing the location of that of those resources in the pre-course communication. And a little tech tip, Padlet that we just used can be used to create a collaborative resource board. So because people can add posts, you could have something where your learners are also able to contribute to those resources. So I think you just need to spend time thinking through what is the best fit for you and for your learners, but deciding on one central place to put your resources. Okay, and so the last piece is choosing your tools intentionally. So first of all, don't overwhelm yourself or your learners. So really don't choose any more than 3 or 4 core, what I would call core or required tools. In this course in particular, and in this webinar, I'm actually going to present you with a lot of different options for tools. I love all of the different ed tech tools out there. It's kind of what I've spent a lot of my career focused on, and how to use those in courses in a meaningful way. But if you notice, from course 1 to course 2, we're actually not, I'm not changing and we haven't changed the core or required tools that we're using. So, Moodle, Zoom, email, these are sort of the discussion boards within Moodle, so the tools within Moodle. These are the core tools that are kind of required to participate in our course. We are offering options for exploring other tools, and we're offering some choice there. If you have had a chance to look at the portfolio assignment, you will have noticed that. But what is required to participate in the course is pretty much remaining constant. So it's keeping things simple, establishing tools for communication, content delivery, collaboration, assignments, and assessment. And the thing is, often one tool can accomplish many of these things. And so you should aim to choose tools that are flexible enough to kind of check off multiple boxes for accomplishing these things you need to in your course. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about just some of the foundational sort of getting started best practices for online learning, we're going to move a bit into the tools and how to make it happen. So my question to you is, what are some benefits of online or technology-enabled learning? And actually, you can respond in the chat, but we can also go back. This could be a time for us to revisit our Padlet. And we can kind of look and see what are some of the benefits. So we've expressed some challenges, but what are some of the benefits that we see here? And one thing you can do in Padlet, or that I can do because I'm the owner of the board, I'm not sure if everyone can do it, but I can change the color of the post. So if I wanted to highlight certain posts in that way, I could do that for us. So if I'm looking for benefits, for example. Okay, so that's just kind of a feature of the tool, but oh, I'm sorry, lost the question. What are some of the benefits of online or technology-enabled learning? I will try not to move the post around so much, Jane. Okay, less expensive than face-to-face, reach a greater audience. People can work at their own pace within limits. Okay, so these are definitely a lot of the benefits that we've posted on the Padlet and that exist in online learning. So as we are posting those, I am going to just share some of the benefits that I think are present in online learning. So, I mean, one thing that has come up in our conversations here today multiple times, is that it's flexible. So if we think about our germ-free, if we think about our learners, who are our learners? They are usually working adults, right? And so the flexibility of online learning helps create possibilities that, a face-to-face workshop might not be able to. Um, Also, online learning can be extremely motivating in that it's learner centric, and it's by nature, it's active. Um, and so the learner is focusing on a task that is personalized to them, and often it's easy to make clear connections between the task that they're doing and their actual work. And so that can be really a motivating factor. You have a farther reach, which someone noticed, which someone called out in the chat. But so let's take this course, for example. If this were a face-to-face course, we would not be able to meet and work with all of you wonderful people because of the geographical limitations. So you have a farther reach. And also the ability to offer choice and voice. So it's a lot easier to offer learners choice in what they're doing online than it is in a physical environment. And it accommodates different types of learners too. So learners that maybe necessarily wouldn't feel comfortable speaking up in class have this opportunity to have a voice and feel comfortable in an online environment. So before we jump into the tools, I want to present you with the SAMR model. And so I'm curious to know if anyone has heard of the SAMR model before I explain it. But if you are a technology using educator, which all of you are, whether you want to be or not in this current climate, the SAMR model is very important to thinking. It's a very important framework or model to thinking through your technology integration. So what SAMR does is it kind of breaks down. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go through this and kind of explain it to you. But SAMR provides you a framework for thinking through how to use technology and how do you integrate it and use it in a meaningful way so that you're really getting the most out of the technology. And so the first stage of SAMR, or the first level, I should say, is substitution. And so that is when you're using technology as a direct substitute with no functional change. So that might be something like if you have a paper-based worksheet, creating a digital copy of it, a PDF of it. And then the next level is augmentation. And so that's when technology acts as a direct substitute with a functional improvement. So if we think about augmentation, let's think about this webinar, for example. This could be very similar to me delivering a face-to-face talk, substituting that, but there's a functional improvement in that we can have chat on the side, we can record this, we can record the webinar, and so we couldn't really do that as easily in person. Another example of augmentation might be if you have turned a paper worksheet into a digital copy, adding links so that they can go and follow those links to other resources. The next stage is modification. So this is allowing for significant task redesign. When I think of modification, the first thing that comes to mind is online discussion boards. So online discussion boards create the opportunity for discussion that it would not be possible in a face-to-face environment. And so that's because, in a face-to-face environment, when you're having let's say like a table talk or a small group discussion, you have to respond in the moment. Whereas a discussion board online allows for more time, it allows for more equity and voice, and it just allows for the teacher to actually see more of the thinking that's going on than would be possible in a classroom. And then the last stage is redefinition. So allowing for the creation of new tasks that previously you wouldn't be able to do. And so when we think of this, this could be like, you know, inviting a guest speaker into your course from Vietnam, or global networking, for example, you know, networking with people around the world, or you know, virtual field trips could be another example too. So now none of us can go on any field trips, but if we wanted to have sort of this simulated experience, we could provide a virtual field trip. So in thinking through how you're using technology and how you're going to take your face-to-face course and deliver it online, it's important to consider these different areas. And you know, none of them are inherently bad or good. It's just that we want to try to use technology in a way that we're able to utilize what it's capable of doing, so that we can sort of redefine and modify and redefine these experiences to take full advantage of what technology is able to offer us, all of these benefits that we shared just a slide ago. So I want to take this moment just to say that this right now, what you have is an opportunity to redefine your trainings and classes and create learning experiences that weren't possible before, when you had maybe a 3-hour training or a 2-day training even that's in person. You have now these options to use technology in these different ways and harness the benefits to redefine and create these wonderful learning experiences. So I hope that everyone views it as an opportunity. And there are challenges, of course, but this is a real opportunity to reach students in a different way. Okay, so I've talked enough. So we're actually going to take a commercial break. So I'm going to share this commercial video with you.
Emma. Huh? Emma. Not anymore. Emma. Every day it's getting on my nerves. Emma. Oh, I'm Emma. Emma.
Okay. I forgot that the lady's name was Emma. Okay. So I love that short little commercial because it really illustrates something very important. It turns out that that was actually not just a commercial break, but a cautionary tale to be careful with the way that you're using technology and with direct substitution, because it doesn't work always. And so the first step in using technology and considering the tools for online learning is to think about your learners and the end goals first, and then thinking about the characteristics of the technology and the tools, and do they help you meet your learners' needs and accomplish your goals. Clearly, iPad, toilet paper does not do what we need it to do in that situation. Okay, so we're going to talk now about some tools for moving beyond the Zoom classroom in really any online context. So, you know, some of us maybe don't know what form our classes will take, you know, what things will look like, but all of these tools and strategies are applicable to a single webinar or a full online course. So the first one we will talk about is digital collaboration tools. And so I kind of put these into different categories, but these tools are very flexible and can be used for many different things. But Padlet is the one that we talked about in the very beginning, or that we used in the very beginning, I should say. Padlet is very, very flexible and can be used for lots of different things. And so I have some examples for you to help maybe generate some ideas. So we used it in this chalkboard splash way. This was a way of gathering questions from a group of students prior to a session. So you can use it to gather information before something happens. You can use it to capture what students learned after doing an activity or a reading. You can use it for reflection. You can use it for brainstorming. So the way that this one is set up, you can draw connectors from different ideas. So this was a group project on environmental issues. So the nature of it is collaborative, so you can have multiple people working on one board at once. And so when you come and you create a board, you sign up for an account for Padlet. And when you create a board, you have different formats for the board. In our online course, there is a technology playground where you can go and you can try out all of these tools that I'm talking about today. And so you'll see I have the map format there. Padlet is free too. Everything I talk about today is going to be free and fairly simple to get started. And I like to choose tools too that don't really require your learners to have to sign up for accounts. And so that's one of the benefits of Padlet is you can share it and your students don't have to sign up for accounts. So just some of the key features: collaborative, no account necessary. You have owner control, so you can set privacy settings, who's allowed to post, who's allowed to share. You can password protect it if you want to. What is Padlet good for? It's very, very flexible. It's good for lots of different things, but I love to use it for icebreakers and building rapport. Content curation is another great way. Assessing what learners know pre and post. So asking a question before a course or after a course, getting their reflections, evaluation, feedback, it's good for that too. Group projects, so if you have small groups, you can use a Padlet board for, so that the groups can share resources or present something to other learners, as well as brainstorming with the different connectors that are available. And I see one of the questions there is, how easy is it to use on a smartphone? It's very easy to use on a smartphone. So the other tools I try to choose are flexible across all different platforms and devices. And Padlet actually has an app that you can download and post from the app as well. Okay, so the other set of tools that are really great for collaboration are Google Drive tools. And so I'm sure some of you or many of you are familiar with different Google Drive tools, but I think that they lend themselves really, really well to online learning because of the easy collaborative features that are kind of built into your Google Slides, your Google Docs, Google Sheets. So any of your office productivity tools, but in Google form in the cloud kind of exist. And so some different ideas are present here for how you can use Google Drive tools so you can actually create a Padlet type environment in a Google slide. One way that I really like to use these are to create like group jigsaw activities. And so with this one, for example, this is an example of one I did many years ago. Some of these are from my classroom days, but this would be a group activity where you have different groups are responsible for contributing different pieces of information, and something that the whole class has visibility into, but groups are responsible for different areas. And so Google, with the ability to share, Google Drive allows you to create allows people to collaborate and share pretty easily. Collaborative presentations are another great. So if you have group presentations, then you want people to present. So what are Google Docs, slide sheets? What are they good for? Group projects, peer review. So the commenting feature actually makes Google Docs excellent for peer review, getting peer feedback. Creating resources. So from a course perspective, from a facilitator perspective, creating your resources and sharing them very easily, sort of like I did today with the webinar, the note-taking template. It makes course management pretty easily, so you can create shared folders, shared resources, offering learner choice. So I reference HyperDocs, but that's sort of like what the activity that I created that has different links built into it, and I'll offer a resource on that to everyone at the end of the webinar. But you can create kind of these choice boards for students in Google Docs. Case studies, and then also peer teaching. So if you think of Google Slides, it would be really great to have a group of students teaching other students how to do something. Okay, so we're going to take a pause here and do a stop and think. Number one, how could you use Padlet or Google Docs slides to transform one of your traditional classroom activities? So take a minute and think about that. If there was something that I, mentioned that really resonated with you, how might you use it in your class? So I see my class works in Excel, and I actually did consider that as I was considering some of your courses, and Google Sheets is available and it's like Excel. It doesn't have quite as many of the powerful formulas and stuff that you need, might need that Excel has, but it's pretty good. So if it has the formula you can use, or if you're able to use the formula in Google Sheets, you can use it in a collaborative way so that groups can work on a shared spreadsheet. Well, parking lot is a great idea for Padlet too. Okay. All right, so I want to move to the next set of tools, and I'm sorry if I feel like I'm moving fast here, but you have all of these tools exist in the tech playground in the course, so you will have the ability to try them out and choose the tools that you're really interested in, because in 1 hour we don't have time to try them all out here. So I want to talk about reimagining online discussions and going beyond the chat tool. And so the first tool I'm going to talk about is Flipgrid. And Flipgrid is so fun. It's one of my favorite tools. They're all my favorite tools, but Flipgrid is a digital video-based discussion board. And so when we think about online course discussions, they're usually text-based and threaded, but you have the opportunity to create more dynamic discussions using tools like Flipgrid and Synth, which I'll talk about in a minute. So the way that Flipgrid works is as a teacher, you have to sign up for an account. It's free. And then you create what is called a grid. And so you would create a grid for your class. And then on your grid, just like on a normal discussion board, you can have different topics. And when you want to create a topic, you give it a title, you write your prompt, you choose a recording time, so how long can the recording be, and then you create the topic. So I will show you, we actually have an example. Let's view as a student. I've created an example for all of us to participate in. It's in the tech playground in the course, but if you see here, so right now, Emma, Jeff, and I have responded. But the way it works is you go to the URL and you video yourself giving a response to the discussion prompt. And then you can also view your fellow learners' responses and comment on them as well. So if I wanted to leave a video comment, I can do that as well. So it's just like a regular discussion board, but using the but using the reply function, I'm able to actually, it's not going to work because I'm doing my webinar here, but you can do a video reply to the people that you're in the course with. So it's just imagine a discussion with video instead of text. And it's very difficult for me to show it off right now and the examples because of the webinar also happening at the same time. I don't want anything to kind of, break. But so you can, there's also lots of neat editing features. There's a large educator community to share and get ideas from, and it's embeddable in an online course. So that's another thing I forgot to mention about Padlet and this. When I say it's embeddable, if I show you an example from Padlet, for example, this is our course. You can participate in a Padlet activity directly in the course without having to leave. So that creates for sort of a more kind of whole learning environment where students don't have to go in and out of the course. So what is Flipgrid good for? Asynchronous video discussions, which is not an easy thing to accomplish otherwise. Digital storytelling, reflection, and just varying sort of how your online discussions happen. So sometimes the text-based discussion boards get a little dry. So this is good to kind of change it up a bit. Also simulation and role play. And I think that some of you do these in your courses or your classes. So you could provide a prompt for students where they have to role play and respond, or you could have two students responding to each other with a video-based role play. An example activity that I used before is just having learners read an article and respond to the article with a Flipgrid video. It's just as simple as that, and then watching classmates' videos and responding. The next tool that is very similar to Flipgrid is Synth, but the difference between Synth and Flipgrid is that Synth is an audio-based discussion board. So if I come to Synth, I create an account in Synth. What I would do is post a prompt and then share with my learners, and they're able to respond with audio. And then what I can do, so if I were to click on it, I can play it, and then people can respond via a thread. So you can have a threaded discussion just like a discussion board, but it's little bite-sized audio bits. And then you can interact with posts by liking them, and you can also leave text-based comments. And so what they call them in Synth is podcasts. So that's the same idea as Flipgrid, where you kind of create different topics. So I might have my course, and then I would create a podcast, which might be my topic that learners are able to contribute to. And so these are 256-second sound bites that you're able to create. I don't know where that number comes from, but the other really neat thing is you can generate transcripts from them, which is important for kind of accommodations and accessibility. So that's a very nice feature. And again, you can have these threaded discussions. And very similar to Flipgrid, you can use it for the same type of things: digital storytelling, collaborating with an extended audience, delivering content in digestible bites. So I could also deliver my own podcast in which students or learners are able to listen to it in small bite-sized bits while they're working around the house or something like that, which definitely would not be possible in a traditional face-to-face environment. Peer teaching and simulation and role play, again, would be a good use for this. Okay, So I'm going to give us a time to stop and think now. What are the benefits of offering video or audio-based asynchronous discussions? So benefits over maybe a text-based discussion. Adds life to the presentation, more appealing, humanizes us, yeah. So that's one of the things I think is most important about these tools, is that we lose that, right, in online learning, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of, is losing that human interaction. And while this doesn't necessarily replace it, it does help to bring some of that to the table, and provide a little of that flavor that normally we wouldn't have if we were just doing text-based discussions. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on just to the last one here to talk about, and then we will kind of wrap up from there. But I actually have 3 more tools, but we're only going to do one. And I know that some people are feeling overwhelmed with the amount of tools that I presented, but trust me that you do have the opportunity to get in and do some hands-on experiences with them in the course and explore one tool in depth that you're very interested in. But I wanted to offer these different options for you all today. Okay, so in considering which tools to present, I really my mind went to Edpuzzle when I was thinking in particular about the types of content that this particular group of educators is presenting. And so Edpuzzle is a tool that allows you to break up videos and insert and make them interactive. So you can build on existing videos and create insert quiz questions or open-ended questions. And so I'm just going to show you because it's a bit easier. So you sign up for an account with Edpuzzle, and then when you come in, you're able to search actually already existing content. And so they pull from YouTube, Khan Academy, National Geographic, all of these different places within the platform. I'm choosing mortgage basics because I just think it's really a thrilling topic. And so what you can do once you decide on your video, you can take that video, and you can see in the video here, I have inserted different questions. So you can see to the side here, there's a multiple choice question. I can also insert, oh, that's not an example of that, but I can also insert open-ended questions. So you can break up a video and you can insert questions to check for understanding or to get opinions with open-ended questions. And so that basically will allow you to search any video that's on YouTube and kind of modify it to fit your needs. You cannot upload your own videos, but I believe that if you upload a video to YouTube, and then you can pull it into Edpuzzle that way. And this is only speaking for the free version because that's the only one that I know. You may be able to upload them with the paid version. I'm not sure of that. But this has content for everything. I'm sure that if you teach it, you can find content on here that you can borrow from, and you can actually even borrow from other educators' existing resources. So ones that have already been created, and you can just kind of copy their activity and use it for your own class. So it's a time saver as well. And you can also create it so that learner sign up is not necessary. So again, no email. And then this kind of speaks to that point that was made back towards the beginning of the webinar about online learning allowing learners to go at their own pace. This is one really great tool for allowing that to happen. And so you can go back and rewatch segments of videos and just really consume it at the speed that you need to. Okay, I realize that we are like 2 minutes from the end. So I'm going to skip over most everything. But I only had 2 more tools, but this will be available to you in the course. And again, you have the whole week to kind of play with these different ideas and tools. And I'm obviously available to help answer any questions around getting started with the tools. But before we end, just a few things to note, some next steps. Okay, so the course module is open in Moodle. If you haven't been in yet to check it out, you can do your introductory post in the networking forum. There's some pretty fun stuff in there already, and start working through some of that content. Okay, so our discussions are going to take a little bit of a different format. In this course, it's going to look pretty similar, but you're actually going to be working in small groups. And so you're already placed in those small groups, so you'll be in a group with between 5 and 7 people. And that's where you're going to have your first set of discussions, which are contained in the core module. And so you'll have your initial response due Wednesday and your response to your peers by Friday. And then we also are going to have a whole group discussion, and that is more of a reflection post, which will be due towards the end of the course on Sunday, and that happens in the course discussions. All of this is outlined in your module, but I just wanted to highlight that there are 2 different discussion boards, primary discussion boards for this course. And then lastly, your portfolio assignment. When you start working on that and you're ready to, first share it with your small group in your discussion board for feedback. Have them try out your creation for your portfolio assignment. And then once you get that feedback, you can make changes, and then that will be due on Monday. And so as a reminder too, this is the only webinar for the course. And so you will just be now working in your small groups. We'll be helping to facilitate those discussions, and then your course assignment is due again Monday at 5. So those are the main things I have. Jeff and Emma, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. We're really looking forward to this course and talking more with you guys all in there. Some of the conversations we've had in the chat, I'm going to try to take with us over into the discussion board so we can flesh them out even better.
Yeah, there is a lot happening in the chat, so. And we will definitely be sharing this video as soon as we are able to get it uploaded, because I know, again, there's a lot of information contained in this one short webinar. I have a very hard time choosing between the tools I want to talk about. It's hard for 1 hour. So thank you all very much for your participation. And we will see you in the course.
Thank you.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you.